Hello, my name is Thomas Sudhof, and it is a great pleasure for me to provide this video message for the final meeting of MNESIS, a multi-scale integrated approach to the study of the nervous system in health and disease. Clearly something we're all very interested in. So, why are we interested in this subject? Why is it important? We all have the chance to live longer now. But as a result of being able to live longer, we all are increasing our chances of getting age-related diseases, of which those of the brain are becoming more and more prominent, in particular Alzheimer's disease. And that's just one of the many diseases that are age-related. In other words, there is a developing threat to our lives, to our societies, to our cultures, that as we are given the chance to live longer, that chance is really a hollow promise, because we are also going to possibly suffer from diseases that will rob us of our minds. So there is an enormous need to understand the brain and to understand what happens to the brain in disease. My own research over the decades has changed. Although I've been a neuroscientist now for almost 40 years, after switching from cholesterol metabolism to neuroscience, I have actually studied very different processes in the brain. I was fortunate to receive a Nobel Prize for studies on how neurotransmitters are released. I'm proud of our work there and those of many others that contributed significantly to those studies. But in recent years, in recent decades, in fact, our emphasis has shifted to a different question in neuroscience, namely how in the brain synapses connect neurons into circuits. What is the molecular logic of these connections? A completely different question that is instrumental for understanding the brain, and also important for understanding brain disorders. In Alzheimer's disease in particular, but also in neuropsychiatric disorders such as schizophrenia, synaptic dysfunction may be at the core of the disease process. Certainly in Alzheimer's disease, it has been shown that the symptoms best correlate with a loss of function of synapses, not, for example, with the accumulation of amyloid plaques, which are obviously important, but seem to be rather an epiphenomenon. Our work, together with that of others, is beginning to understand how the brain is wired in molecular terms, but it's just a beginning. At this point in neuroscience, we really do not understand how the brain works. We do not understand how the diseases of the brain affect the brain. We only understand that it's bad, that basically the brain suffers, and so do the people and their families. In my personal opinion, it is often wrongly represented in the public that a lot of research has already been done and that we can now model brain functions and that the brain is close to being understood, that in fact it might be possible to model how the human brain works in a computer. I think all of that is hyperbole, but enormous progress has been made over the last decades, progress that has also implicated specific disease processes in the development, for example, of Alzheimer's disease or of schizophrenia, to just cite two examples. And so I am confident that in the next decades, we will actually be able to develop therapies. And with we, I don't mean us, I mean the field in general, I hope to contribute, but our contributions will be small compared to the overall effort of the whole community. So I think that there will be progress. And clearly, initiatives like MNESIS are a critical component of that progress. We need concerted efforts by the scientific community in general, in every country, to solve the enigma of the brain. And I think we need to be realistic here and humble. It is not gonna be easy to understand even the most fundamental issues, such as, for example, how a reflex is generated. So I'm not talking about understanding consciousness here. I'm talking about understanding just fundamental processes like how circuits are built. What is the molecular logic that makes synapses be formed between specific identified nerve cells in the brain, something that we do not yet understand. Issues like that, but they are essential. Understanding these issues is essential for progress in understanding diseases. So in closing, I'm optimistic. I don't think we are there yet. I don't think we'll be there in the next few years, but I'm optimistic that on the basis of the enormous progress of recent years, in the next decade, at least advances will be made towards therapies of Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, and others. Advances that will allow prevention, possibly, certainly treatments of these diseases beyond what is currently possible, and that will benefit humankind in general, not just some specific countries, that are for the benefit of all of humanity. And so I hope that the efforts of initiatives such as MNESIS will continue to contribute. Thank you very much. Goodbye.